the expert in the law does get it right with regard to the important commandment, but then the Lord deliberately makes a point, going beyond the letter. This applies also to us. In the last resort, what matters is that we save our soul, and in so doing, as many as possible with us. We can be guilty of putting off others from finding Jesus. I want to zoom into concrete issues of being a Samaritan. Do we feel each other? Do we let the person be and have the courtesy to see what that person really wants to say? Otherwise, it's a form of passing over on the other side. As you know, a priest spends much of his time listening to pain. And I can tell you that much of that pain is in marriage. Dysfunctional marriages, even though officially they're still together. Nowadays, women are not quite so ready to put up with anything. Some years ago, in rural Ireland, a husband said to his wife, "Woman, I spoke." And I thought to myself, it would be good had a video been played back of his vows some years earlier at the altar, to love and to cherish. Remember now, each state has its specificity, and marriage has its own glorious one. Do not raise your voice or bring down your partner. It is strange, but human love, all through the centuries, can work until death. Why? It's a part of God's own power. But in Christian marriage, there is a bonding sacramentally, and therefore one cannot insult Jesus in the spouse. This week, I was reflecting quietly on the death of two people, both through suicide. One was Adolf Hitler, but the other was that of Eva Braun. She could have stayed at Berchtesgaden, but for some strange reason, she said, "No, I will go to my master and die with him." I have no idea of the state of her soul, although I do know that she was from actually a devout Catholic family. And so it was that on the same couch in the bunker under the Reichstag in Berlin, she took cyanide and he took simultaneously cyanide and shot himself in the right temple. I have no idea what happened to her soul. May it please Almighty God to take into account at least this, that there was a sort of heroic fidelity there, because actually they did get married on the eve, as you know. but the other didn't make it. We know that because his voice has come out in exorcism. Ja, ich bin Hitler. And so, when he gave orders for his body and that of his by then wife to be burned, he went from one visible fire to another. And it occurred to me, what is the use of even writing history books, changing world history, and then ending up in a bad place? It can happen to any soul who is brilliant and turning off bit by bit to light. Therefore, when we see a soul, that's the question that must be back in our mind. Is this soul going to be saved? That soul right now has been placed before me by divine providence. Maybe the Lord wants me to what? Draw near to that soul, like the Good Samaritan. Draw near to a soul. To listen to the internal non-expressed pain, to read between the lines. It's a whole art. And the last thing one does is to give immediate answers, pat answers. Before I finish, I want to go into one other specific realm of being a Samaritan. It's that of accompanying people in the old classic art of sharing truth on paper, writing letters, and now dormant art which has given place to the immediate, internet and texts, and what is not to be kept. When clearing out our house in Wales, I came across letters that were about 50 years old, including communication between Dad and Mum. Extremely moving. Fidelity to death. One person, only one. And then how painful it is to write a letter and to really need an answer. This can actually be in Christian life of our faith itself, writing to a priest or a bishop or whatever it might be, and no letter coming back. Think of the way that people years ago hoped for some letter. Even the Beatles actually have a song about it. Just a letter for me. I want to finish with this, which I wasn't aware of until this morning. I often get letters with S-A-G on the back. And I've often thought, qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? What on earth is that supposed to be? And this morning I discovered what it was. The origin of the practice is this. A Spanish merchant named Antonio Dante left Spain for South America in 1729 to establish a business in Lima, Peru. His wife, who remained in Spain, wrote a number of letters to him without receiving a reply. In great distress and with the utmost simplicity, she brought a letter with her to the church of St. Francis at Oviedo. In the church was a large statue of St. Anthony, and it was in his outstretched hand that she placed a letter to her husband. Her prayer of confidence was, St. Anthony, I pray thee, let this letter reach him and obtain for me a speedy reply. The next day she returned to the church and saw that her letter was still there. Weeping in frustration that her letter had not been delivered, she attracted the attention of the brother sacristan, who listened to her story. Afterward, he told her that he had tried to remove the letter, but could not. And he asked the lady if she would try to remove it. This she did with ease. The letter was not the one placed there the day before, but a letter from her husband. Immediately, 300 golden coins fell from the sleeve of the statue. A number of the friars were alerted to the scene and waited while the miraculous letter was opened. The letter was dated July the 23rd, 1729. My dear wife, for some time I have been expecting a letter from you and been in great trouble at not hearing from you. At last your letter has come and given me joy. It was a father of the Order of St. Francis who brought it to me. You complain that I have left your letters unanswered. I assure you that when I received none, I believed you to be dead. So you may imagine my happiness at the arrival of your last one. I answer by the same religious and send you 300 golden crowns, which will suffice you for your support until my approaching return. In the hope of soon being with you, I pray God for you, and I commend myself to my dear patron St. Anthony, and ardently desire that you may continue to send me tidings of yourself. Your most affectionate Antonio Dante. In school days, or rather university days by then, I would often go the weekend to Oxford to my best friend Paul, and we would write a letter about every week to each other. And he came out at the end of one letter quoting the Apostle John. I have many things to tell you, but I will not write in pen and ink. And when I met him on the platform at Oxford, he said, "The joy